Hey guys, JC Smith here. Today I'm doing a little work on my daughter's Lincoln. This is a Lincoln Aviator. It's an 05. It is basically a smaller version of the Navigator. I bought this for my daughter probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. She had been driving a 2007 F-250 diesel extended cab four-wheel drive truck to school when she was in high school, and you know, we're in the country, so that's not a abnormal. Yeah, I know my seatbelt's not on. That's not anything out of the norm, you know. But she drove it and she had no trouble. She took really good care of it, and I told her if she, you know, drove for a few years, she wants something else, we'd buy her something else. She really didn't care for how big it was, so I bought her this Aviator. And when I bought it, I went through it and we put ball joints and tie rods and new wheels and oil change and flushed the coolant and spark plugs and fuel filters, all that good stuff. I'm gonna turn that off. But and it's been a very trouble-free vehicle, really. I did brakes, front and rear, rotors, I think, if I recall, but you know, you'd have to understand, I keep a file on all of our vehicles because I can't remember, you know, from one to the next exactly everything that's been done. So she told me the ABS light came on, and when the ABS light comes on, depending on what code it is, it disables the all-wheel drive. And winter's coming, so I don't want her to be without all-wheel drive, so I just took the scanner, took it for a nice long drive. I read the codes, wrote them down, and then I erased them, went ahead and drove it. And the way I like to do it is to, once you erase them, the one that sets whatever codes reset, that's where we want to start. So it has a right front wheel bearing code. It says it has a right front wheel bearing fault. Now, my scanner showed that it was registering miles per hour the same as all the other wheel speed sensors, but that doesn't mean it doesn't drop out occasionally. And if it does, if it would like be showing a good rotation, but then the signal drop out for a second, the scanner's going to pick that up, which I believe is what's happening. Now, this thing has 120 some odd thousand miles on it now, so rather than take the time, put the scope on it, spin the wheel, and look for that one particular time it's going to drop out at 120,000 miles, I'm just going to go ahead and do it, just because, you know, it's already 120,000 miles on that wheel bearing, and the ABS sensor is part of the wheel bearing, so I'll just change it out. And if it's not the problem, I'll go from there, but I don't have a problem with that. I usually don't like to just put parts in it, but I've already done the left front, as it did the same thing. It was throwing a fault code back in the winter time, and we changed out the left front wheel. So now we'll just go ahead and do the right front, and they'll both be new, and if it doesn't fix the problem, we'll go from there, but I'm fairly confident that's going to be it. So, alright, let's get to work. Okay, so one drawback to using these aftermarket wheels is you have to use a thin wall socket, not a impact. This isn't an impact, this is what's called a machinist or industrial finish, but it is half-inch drive, so that's one of the drawbacks. So let's get it apart. Well, just like I thought, I don't know if you can see that in there, but I've replaced the caliper and pads and rotors on the front of this a while ago, and I did I know I did upper control arms with ball joints. I can't remember if I did lowers or not. I think I did. Yeah, I did. Because I had to take the whole spindle off and press them in the bottom there. And they're greasable, so we're going to go ahead and change oil and grease this thing too while we're at it, because I think I looked in the monitor and it says it's getting close to an oil change to do. So while we got it jacked up, we'll go ahead and get out. We're going to take all this ABS wiring loose here, and then there's these quick disconnects here, another one up in here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the caliper mounting bracket off, take the rotor off, take the axle nut loose. Anyhow, so we'll take this loose, get all this out, and then we'll take the bolts loose that hold the wheel hub in here. Well, that's tough to get. There it is. I think there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them this size. Usually what I have to do is take the axle nut socket loose and then push this CV joint in just a little bit to get a good socket on here. So, alright. It comes out of the front, so it should be pretty easy. So, let me get some tools and we'll get to work. Caliper bracket's off. I got it hanging off the top upper control arm. I push this back a little bit. I just use a hair hammer with a pointed tip on it. Just tap it in there easy, so I don't want to mess up the threads or anything. And now I got the wire all unhooked here. It comes up in here, unplugs. I like to stuff the end down in there. It's less likely to get caught that way. Go. Pull this down through here. We'll take a look at the wiring. You can see how the aluminum is deteriorated. Of course, I don't see anything wrong with the wire. I mean, all it takes is take that one off there. All it takes is a real slight glitch, right? And it'll set the check in, or the ABS light, but and it comes into this area right here. So now I'm gonna, while I got the wheel turned this way, I'll get the one bolt that's right there while it's turned this way, and then I'll turn it the other way. Actually, I'll get the top two at the same time, and I'll turn the other way and get the front one. Sometimes you just can't get in here right. You need to get the right angle. Oh, the dangle. So I like to use these 1/2-inch drive swivel, impact swivel that is. Put it on there, make it easier. Okay, so I got the wheel bearing out, and when you take these out, the wheel bearing is cast iron. This is cast aluminum. So you get corrosion like you see around here, some of these places, from the two dissimilar metals. So what I do is take usually wire wheel on this little cordless Bosch drill, and I stick it in here and run around, try and clean all that up I can, and I clean the face up with just one of those cookies I use. And then whatever doesn't want to come loose, I'll take a file in here ever so gently and just work on the rust. That way when I put the new bearing in, I don't have to fight it and force it. It should snug in firmly, but not have to be, beat in like I had to, beat on this one to get it out. So, that being said, I'm going to get this up higher, get a jack stand underneath it, and get the oil drained, give her a grease job while I'm waiting on my daughter to come back with the parts I sent her out to pick up. Okay, as usual, I like to get a thin coat of grease between these two dissimilar metals. And a lot of guys like to use like Never Seas or something. Never Seas is okay. I guess it's all what you want, but Never Seas just seems to get all over everything. And there's places where it's necessary, I would use it, and there's places it just doesn't matter, where a thin loaded coat of grease will be just fine. And if I don't need to use Never Seas, I don't. I'm sure there's places that I should, and I don't, but that's okay. The likeness I'll have this wheel bearing off anytime soon is probably pretty thin. So next I'll get some grease on this and get ready to put it together. Right in like nobody's business. Now, the Apple one comes with new bolts with thread locker on them and new retainers for the wire that that you can change out if you need to. I didn't take mine loose. They're still holding good. They're not broke. I'll throw them in the drawer for something else. I'm sure this has something to do with another application, but we don't have any bolts this size with this head, so we'll be using these ones. So as you can see, it went right in. It slid in. I didn't have to tap it or anything. Nice and clean and easy. Orientation of the wheel speed sensor itself is kind of a big deal, so you want to make sure you get that in the right place. So, let me get these tight. You see, my grease is starting to mush out a little bit there. So at this point, you want to make sure you look at the actual torque spec on the 3 bolts that hold this in. You want to torque them to the right spec. You certainly don't want that coming off. And then you want to torque the axle nut here. Okay guys, so I got the wheel speed sensor hub assembly is what it is, the bearing hub assembly replaced on my daughter's Lincoln, and I've cleared the codes, and now I'm going to take it for a ride and make sure it's all good. I went ahead and changed the oil and greased it and gave it a looking over while I was at it, because that's always a good time to try and catch anything before winter, because the last thing I want to do is, you know, have a problem in the winter time. So I've cleared the codes out of memory, and you know, I got the scanner on so we can see what it does. It was pretty cool last night. Like I gotta tell you, I think it was in the 40s. I think my scanner just came unplugged. Anyways, I think it was in the 40s last night, and got it on the steering wheel. And I think we finally made it up to about 60. You know, the leaves are changing. I don't know if you guys can see this in the back of the camera here, but there's one there you might be able to see. I don't know if I can get that to work, but anyhow, the leaves are changing, the temperature's dropping. You know, I guess wintertime's coming. I gotta tell you, of all the time of year, you know, I dislike winter because it's so cold, and then I can't get as much work done as I normally do, or I need to do. But at the same time, I gotta tell you, to be brutally honest with you, I do like the fact that it stops me from doing some work, because it gives me a chance to kind of take a break and somewhat relax, I guess. Until I've been in the house too long and I feel kind of stir crazy and I gotta get back at it. So, you know, normally this ABS light would have kicked on as soon as I hit 35 miles an hour. So, just to be thorough and make sure I hopefully got it. Like I said, I didn't. Well, let me finish what I was saying. Is I want to get it on the highway and get it up to, you know, 65, 70 miles an hour, and make sure that it's going to stay off. But I didn't take a scope and, you know, back probe it in the plug, and then look at the lab scope, and then, you know, look at the waveform and see what it looked like, and look for that glitch. Like if I'm sure if I was a shop owner and I was doing this work for someone else, I wouldn't spend the money on the wheel bearing on, yeah, I think that's it. I'd want more conclusive evidence that that is the problem. But being as though my daughter drives this, I don't think replacing that wheel bearing was a bad thing. Even if it doesn't fix the problem, I'll be okay with it. But anyhow, so far it's going okay. We just hit 50 miles an hour, and like I said, I'm only about a mile and a half actually, to a state route that's 55 miles an hour. So I can get up to speed pretty quick. Yeah, so far so good. No check engine light, no ABS light. Life is good. I even reset her oil change reminder, because this thing goes on 100% down to, I don't remember the last time, if you check through the monitor, what it tells you, but it does come up and say oil change soon, and then oil change now. And it was at the soon, and I think from what we figured from the last time I changed oil in this, I had about 500 miles to go. So, but this should get her through winter, because typically, I mean, I change the oil in her car about every 4.5 months, 4 months, something like that. So we're into September now, so that'll get her through the rest of September, October, November, December. I may have to do it in the middle of winter, but that's okay. At least I'm not doing it twice in the middle of winter, I guess. Anyhow, it looks like it's staying off, and I'm at 60 miles an hour now, so I guess I'm gonna have to call that fixed. And there you go. So the end of this, don't forget, man, everybody, every time you take something apart, make sure you torque to spec. I mean, that's I can't tell you how important it is. Get that book out. If you don't know what it is, call somebody, find out. You know, the bolts will hold that wheel hub on. The hub comes from it goes on the outside, so if you don't get them bolts good and tight and torque to spec, you know, the thing can come off and you could lose a wheel, or, you know, just like the axle nut socket, you know, that has to be torqued to spec also. So do yourself a favor, you know, it's worth the extra effort and the extra time to do it right, so you don't have to do it again. And a lot of times you'll see somebody replace a wheel bearing and they don't torque the axle nut, and, you know, 6-8 months later, 5 months later, whatever it is, they need another bearing because, you know, that nut wasn't tight enough and let the bearing come apart. So that being said, don't forget to torque to spec. Very important, guys. This isn't a how-to, it's just how I do it. So I'm gonna leave you at that. So if you guys like what I'm doing, give us a thumbs up. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave your comments down below, and I guess we'll catch you on the next project. How ironic is this? I get my daughter's Lincoln all finished up, and I bring the keys back inside, and my wife asks what it was, and she says, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, the ABS light came on the Mercury." So I got the scanner out here and plugged it in and run down the road, and the light comes on, and lo and behold, right front wheel speed sensor. Man, what is the odds? I mean, I'll just wait for Monday. We'll head out. I got to run out and get some parts Monday anyway, so we'll just pick that stuff up then. But who would have thought, you know? She tells me it's an ABS light came on, and I checked the code. It's the same identical code and the same identical wheel. Wish I'd known that earlier. I would have checked the code and had her get everything for both of them. But that's the way it works, I guess. Alright, guys. Catch you on the next one.